throat, the teacher stood up and put on a more authoritative tone. Yes, therapy, the most self right? You, Chloe, you got into a physical fight and vandalized school property. In a panic, Chloe stood up her case. No, you can't. My mother would definitely disown me if she found out. Besides, she wouldn't even punish me anyway. Yes, I don't even want to speak to that woman, Miss Bustier thought to herself. It would actually probably be wiser to not involve her in this, for Chloe's sake. Fine, I won't contact your mother, but your father, if he ends up assuming my daddy won't notice that you even tried to call. However, with my luck, he will. She then spoke up in a more discernible tone. Please, Miss Bustier, let me tell him. I can be very persuasive. I'll make sure he doesn't tell my mother anything. Bustier gave her student a skeptical look. Rolling her eyes, Chloe assured, Look, you can call him tomorrow to confirm that I told him, alright? The two stared each other down. But it wasn't too long before Miss Bustier sighed. Alright, Chloe, that's fair. Yes, Chloe cheered. But before you start your suspension, you will mop up the mess you caused in the bedroom, as well as clean up your mess from the flour and the junk in Marinette's locker. Am I clear? Ugh, but that's grunt work, Chloe complained. Can't you just give me extra homework or something? Crossing her arms, Miss Bustier replied, Doing it wouldn't be a punishment for you. Can't I just pay someone to do it? I have the money. In fact, I'll just pay the guys I paid to do most of that stuff anyway. Wait, you paid someone? Never mind. No, Chloe, you'll do it on your own, and you will do it well. Chloe whined. You're not gonna make me apologize to Marinette and Alia, are you? Miss Bustier shook her head. No, only because it won't be sincere and I don't like forced apologies. Although, one day I hope you will come to a place where you'll say it and mean it. Chloe scoffed. Fat chance. As to why I'm suspending you, 2 reasons. 1, I want to make sure that Marinette is safe, and I'm not sure you're in the right headspace to be around her right now. And 2, I want you to take the time to reflect on your actions and hopefully do some much-needed healing. I want to see a completely new Chloe when you return. Puzzled, Chloe asked, What the heck is a new me supposed to look like? Miss Bustier smiled confidently. I'll know. And you will too. Chloe sighed and rolled her eyes again. Whatever you say. Without warning, Miss Bustier pulled Chloe into a hug again. While at first she was surprised, Chloe quickly accepted it with a smile and hugged her teacher back. Alia, wearing her gym class outfit, stood outside the door of her classroom, holding an ice pack on her own bruised cheek. Her hair and skin were finally refreshed, only well enough, after Chloe's cruel prank. One could not thoroughly get dough out of one's hair in such a small amount of time, but with her fate still uncertain, she had to rush through the cleaning process just so that she could at least feel less gross. But never mind that. Never mind the ache on the side of her face. Those were inconveniences, but none could emotionally stack up to Chloe's. Chloe was petty, but gotten so bad. It wasn't always this way. And now, even Alia's freedoms and responsibilities to save the free world were at risk because she had to deal with Chloe's lack of chill. That girl was a menace, and she deserved punishment. There was no justification for what she had done. So why did Alia's heart ache? There were voices on the other side of the door. It was Miss Bustier and Chloe. How long was Alia standing there? long enough to realize she was clenching her fists and her hands were cramping up, long enough to not even notice that trails of tears were drying on her cheeks. The voices kept going as the conversation seemed like it was coming to a close. How long had she been standing there? Remembering that she wasn't supposed to be gone that long, while also attempting to avoid any awkwardness, Alia wiped her face with her hands, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Chloe's face was slightly flushed as she stood a few feet away from their teacher. Her hands were behind her back as she awkwardly avoided making eye contact with Alia. Miss Bustier more a small smile. She dropped the ice pack from her face for the moment. Did I interrupt something? No, Miss Bustier replied. Chloe narrowed her eyes at Alia as she folded her arms. Took your sweet time, didn't you? I'm sure you did exactly what Miss Bustier said not to do and went to talk to your loser friends. Admit it. Or maybe it's just hard to clean wet dough out of your hair. In a sink. Did you consider that? Alia retorted. Giving a foolish grin, Chloe's eyes darted away. Yeah, that does seem like a bit of a nightmare. Sorry you had to go through that. Her tone sounded sarcastic, but Alia was uncertain. Alia's frown deepened as she looked on at her rival with skepticism. Is this you admitting that you did this? Chloe chuckled. Well, She quickly cut off her speech as she glanced over at Miss Bustier, who raised her brows in expectation. Rolling her eyes, Chloe gave an annoyed sigh. If I were to hypothetically admit that I did do this exceptionally hilarious act, all I would add is that I had no intentions of getting you involved. If you weren't so darn close to Lugarnet, you wouldn't have gotten caught in the crossfire. It doesn't matter if I was involved or not. What you did wasn't right, Chloe. Avoiding Alia's gaze, Chloe quietly scoffed. Whatever. I'm done here. The rich girl began to make her way to the classroom exit. Miss Bustier called out to her. Chloe. The girl stopped in her tracks but didn't turn around to face her teacher. For Mr. Dumbledore out of her agreement. So go wait in the proper area, right? Okay. But before Chloe took another step, Alia had one more thing to say. I'm sorry, Chloe. The blonde girl gasped. Her large blue eyes widened in surprise, mouth agape. Miss Bustier also gasped, but her shock fell into a proud smile. Taking a silent gulp, Chloe closed her eyes tight, trying to hold back some very strong emotions, before opening them back up and putting on a more neutral expression. Why are you apologizing? Chloe asked. I have hit you. I mean, you had it coming, and it honestly felt kind of cathartic for a second there. Chloe growled. I thought this was an apology. It is. And I eventually decided that I didn't like hitting you. Telling you off would have been more than enough. But more than that, I just wanted you to know that I didn't just slap you to save Marinette. I did it to save someone else as well. Expression softening even more, Miss Bustier let out a gentle, "Aw." Chloe's frown, however, went crooked in confusion. What's that supposed to mean? I wasn't going after anyone else. Alia sighed. I'm not gonna spell it out for you, bourgeois. Figure it out yourself. Giving an aggressive huff through her nostrils, Chloe said, Weirdo, and then exited the room, closing the door behind her. After a few moments had gone by, Miss Bustier addressed her student. That was very big of you, Alia. I know apologizing to someone you don't get along with isn't easy. You can say that again, Alia shrugged in exasperation. Would have been nice to get an apology back, you know. She'll get there, Bustier assured. Yeah? What makes you so sure? Bustier winked at Alia and put a finger up to her own lips as if telling a secret. I have a superpower where I can see into the future. Alia giggled with skepticism. With all due respect, Miss Bustier, if you had that power, you wouldn't be a teacher. You don't think so? How come? If you could see into the future, then you'd know which students would pass and which ones would fail, so you might not even see a point in teaching them. Au contraire, Alia. It is because I can see into the future that I know who needs more help than others and in what areas. Regardless of the future, someone has to teach you kids, or else no one would pass anything. And besides, I believe that the future is malleable and that we have the power at this very moment to change. The exciting part about being a teacher is seeing your students progress in the present and having for their bright futures. This is Alia. Appreciating the thought, Alia chuckled nervously. Just to be clear, you can't actually see into the future, right? She immediately perked up with stars in her eyes, thinking of the possibilities. Unless... No, I was just messing with you. Alia playfully pouted. Darn. After a few moments of silence between them, Alia's mood gloomed a bit. So, am I in trouble? Making her tone a little more appropriately serious, Bustier replied, You slapped your classmate. What do you think? Does the reasoning matter at all? It depends. Were you or your friends in immediate danger? We theoretically could have been. You heard how unhinged Chloe sounded in that video. Alia became more worked up as her volume increased. None of us knew what she was about to do. You read her file. You know what she's capable of. Immediately knowing she messed up, Alia slapped her hands over her mouth to silence herself. Keeping her cool, and while somehow not being all that surprised, Bustier spoke up. So, you were listening in on our conversation. Alia's face reddened. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I know that wasn't cool, but I don't know why. It doesn't matter. Chloe has assaulted Marinette before, when we were kids, and it didn't only happen once. Chloe had to be taken away because of how violent she was. Do you know how scary that was for Marinette? She needed her own therapy back then just to deal with that anxiety. I understand you're just trying to be a good friend, Alia. And then there's the stuff that the files don't tell you. Alia cut her teacher off. Chloe has mellowed out since we came to this school and as she got older, but she found more subtle ways to mess with Marinette in order to avoid getting into trouble. Last year was a mess whenever the two crossed paths. Attempts to trip Marinette, pretending it was an accident. Gum stuck in Marinette's hair after accidentally bumping into Chloe. Some mysterious box from nowhere filled with spiders. That was fun. Couldn't prove it was Chloe, but of course it was. Other things happened too. Thank goodness they were in separate classes or else things could have been so much worse. And I can only suspect that things were better this year because Adrien was around and she wanted to impress him. Those files can only tell you so much, Miss Bustier. But I know Chloe. Things could have gotten really, really bad. Waiting a few seconds to see if her student was done talking, Bustier replied, I appreciate your perspective on things, Alia. And your insights are definitely useful. I now have a better picture of how things have been going between you three. Would I be correct to assume that you and Chloe used to be friends? Alia blinked in surprise. Oh, she bashfully looked away. With sympathy on her face, Bustier added, Look, I won't pretend like I understand the complexity of the situation. Given what you told me, what's in your files, some extraneous factors, and even what you overheard between myself and Chloe, I know it's a lot. It's so much. You kids honestly shouldn't have to go through all of this. And I'm sorry for how big of a mess this all is. But one wrong on top of a whole bunch of other wrongs doesn't make a right. You shouldn't have hit her because of the possibility that something might happen. You know this. I know you know this, Alia. Energy depleting, Alia confirmed. Yeah, I know. And I'm sorry. But please, she begged, please don't suspend me. Please do not tell my parents about this. Alia, please, it's not like I don't deserve punishment. I know I do, and I'll take it. But I can't. Not right now. If my parents find out, they'll ground me even longer than with the last incident. And I can't afford to be grounded. Not when I... Her voice trailed off. Yes, Alia? What reason could you possibly have for why I shouldn't tell your parents about this? I'm all ears. Alia searched her thoughts very carefully. It was a deeply sensitive situation, and she had to approach it with the utmost respect and finesse in order for this to possibly go her way. I have a secret job. Bustier crossed her arms as she waited for the explanation. Uh-huh. And the job is a surprise. Or rather, it has a surprise outcome. Uh-huh. So, if I'm grounded, I can't do my job. And this job just hired a random 14-year-old without her parents' permission. Okay. I know that sounds suspicious, but I'm telling the truth. Unconvinced, Bustier cocked an eyebrow and lightly puckered her lips. And I know saying that doesn't actually guarantee that I'm telling the truth. Alia's shoulders slumped. I don't know what else to say. Observing Alia's sense of hopelessness, Bustier frowned as she felt bad for the poor girl. She sighed. Walking towards the door, the teacher opened it up and peered outside of it, cautiously looking for something. Alia watched her in confusion. Miss Bustier? What's wrong? Just making sure no one is around. I wouldn't want another eavesdropping incident. She then straightened up and gently closed the door to the classroom. Rejoining Alia, she calmly said, I know you're a superhero, Alia. For a moment, the world around the teen girl seemed to stop as she was reeling from the whiplash of this accusation. She had to be very careful about what she said next. Alia chuckled nervously but kept her tone confident. Oh, I get it. First you have the superpower to see into the future, and now I'm super as well. Let me guess. This is some metaphor that teachers use to make their students feel special. Like, I'll bounce back from this whole experience because I'm so awesome. You are awesome, Alia, that's for sure. But no, this isn't a metaphor. I know you're a superhero. You're that fox hero, right? Rena Rouge? Alia, starting to sweat at this point, brought the ice pack she was holding back up her cheek as she mentally flipped out, wondering where she went wrong. Very funny. How would I even be a fox superhero when I'm completely human? Alia, I was there that night when you chased after Ladybug. Realizing how sunk she was, Alia's usually confident and calm manner began to shrink until she felt like nothing more than a small child who got caught doing something wrong. I was out running some errands when I was on a quieter street than usual. I saw you calling out for Ladybug, who was swinging by. You chased after her, and I was concerned for your safety, especially after the incident with the Akuma attack near our school and how you and Nino got involved. So, I followed you, and, long story short, I know that Marinette is Ladybug, and that you are Rena Rouge. And if I had to guess, either Nino or Adrien is Cat Noir. Alia covered her face with her hands as she contemplated everything. After taking a deep inhale and letting out an exaggerated exhale, she asked, Is there any possibility that I could convince you that you dreamed all of that up? Miss Bustier shook her head. Nope. Sorry. Dropping her arms to her sides in defeat, Alia unzipped her fanny pack around her waist and said, Might as well come out. Nothing happened. You heard her, Trix. The jig is up. And with that, the tiny fox-like creature levitated out of his hiding spot and made himself known. Hello! Miss Bustier perked up in surprise upon seeing him. Oh my. I think I remember seeing you as well. Alia gestured to both of them towards each other. Trix, Miss Bustier. Miss Bustier, Trix. Well, hello there, Trix. It's nice to meet you. Miss Bustier smiled as she held up her index finger to the small creature. Trix politely placed his hands on her finger pad and agreed. Likewise. I gotta say, I liked the little bit of foreshadowing earlier with the joke of your own superpowers. It was kind of poetic, and I appreciate that. You're way too calm about this, Alia told him. It's not the ideal situation, but what's done is done. And if someone is going to find out, at least it's someone nice, fair, and trustworthy. From what I can tell anyway. Besides, what's life without a little chaos, you know? Alia face-palmed with the hand not holding the ice pack. This wasn't the plan. How did I mess up so badly? Of everyone who was going to make such a slip-up, I didn't think it would be me. She groaned. I was so careless and excited that night. I should have paid more attention to my surroundings. If it's any consolation, I was keeping myself hidden and silent, Bustier admitted. Part of me wanted to get you out of there, but the other part of me was very curious. I guess you can take away some of my points as a responsible adult. Nah, you were off duty at that point, and it's natural to be curious. Never lose your curiosity, I say. Your curiosity led you to the acquisition of knowledge, and that's a powerful thing, Trix assured her. If I may ask, what exactly are you, Trix? Miss Bustier asked. He smiled at her. I'm a Kwami. You see... Hold on, Alia interrupted.